It started like any ordinary Sunday morning. I was sitting on the porch, sipping my coffee, wrapped in the calm of a quiet neighborhood. The birds chirped in the distance, and the breeze carried the scent of freshly cut grass. Everything seemed perfect, peaceful, safe. But I've learned something about life. It has a strange way of flipping upside down when you least expect it. And in my case, it all changed the moment my friend's husband showed up at my door. You see, I've known Lisa, my best friend, for over 10 years. We've been through everything together: breakups, career changes, late-night phone calls filled with laughter and tears. She was more like a sister than a friend. So, when she moved just a few blocks away with her husband, Eric, I was genuinely happy for her. He seemed kind, respectful, and completely devoted. At least, that's what I believed. But as I'd soon discover, some truths stay hidden until they explode in ways you never saw coming. It began with small things. Casual visits. A joke here and there. Eric would stop by when Lisa wasn't around, always with some harmless excuse, dropping off a book, returning a dish, asking about lawn care. I didn't think much of it at first. I mean, we were all practically family, right? But slowly, I began to notice a change in his tone, in his eyes. There was something behind his words. Something that made my instincts buzz with unease. Still, I brushed it off. I didn't want to seem paranoid, and I certainly didn't want to stir up anything that could damage Lisa's trust. But the visits kept happening, and each time, Eric lingered longer. His compliments grew personal. His conversations, less innocent. I started avoiding him, locking my doors, making excuses not to be home. And yet, one afternoon, when I thought I was finally alone and safe, he showed up uninvited. What happened next shook me to my core. This isn't just a story about broken trust or unwanted attention. It's about the hidden dangers that can exist right in front of us, behind friendly smiles, and within relationships we think we understand. It's about the moment you realize someone you trusted has crossed a line, and the internal battle that follows. Do you speak up? Do you protect your friend at the cost of your own peace? Or do you stay silent and pretend nothing ever happened? In this true infidelity story, I'll take you through everything that unfolded, how I handled the confrontation, what it did to my friendship with Lisa, and the difficult choices I had to make along the way. It's a story that's personal, painful, and real. So, if you've ever questioned someone's intentions, or trusted someone only to find out they weren't who they seemed, stay with me. Because what happened after that knock on my door was only the beginning. Eric stood there at my door, holding a tray of cookies Lisa had apparently made. His smile was wide, maybe a little too wide, and something about the way he looked at me made my stomach twist. I forced a polite smile, thanked him, and reached for the tray, hoping he'd just leave. But he didn't. Instead, he leaned against the doorframe like he had all the time in the world. "You always look so peaceful out here," he said, eyes scanning the porch, but lingering too long on me. I nodded, barely making eye contact, and muttered something about being busy. Still, he didn't move. It's strange how someone you once felt totally comfortable around can suddenly feel like a stranger. I used to joke with Eric when he and Lisa would come over for dinner. We all laughed together, shared stories, and even leaned on each other during rough patches. But now, with just the two of us standing there, every second felt tense, like something unspoken was hanging between us. I finally excused myself, saying I had work to finish. He nodded slowly, like he wasn't in a rush to go. "Tell Lisa I said thank you for the cookies," I added, trying to shut the door without slamming it. That evening, I couldn't stop thinking about the way he looked at me, like he knew something I didn't. It was subtle, but unsettling. That night, I called Lisa. I needed to hear her voice, to remind myself why I trusted her. She sounded cheerful, talking about weekend plans and how Eric had been helping her around the house more lately. I couldn't bring myself to say anything. What would I even say? That her husband was making me uncomfortable? That I felt like something was off? Over the next few days, Eric's visits became more frequent. Once, he dropped off a jacket I hadn't even realized I left at their place. Another time, he offered to fix a leak under my sink. Always with some reason. Always showing up when Lisa wasn't home. The worst part was, I started doubting myself. Was I overthinking it? Was I reading too much into his words, his gestures? Or was this man, my best friend's husband, actually trying to cross a line? I didn't know what to believe. But deep down, something told me this wasn't going to stop on its own. Something was building, and I could feel it. I just didn't know how bad it would get, or what it would cost me. Days passed, but the heaviness didn't lift. I found myself double-checking the locks, keeping curtains drawn during the day, and avoiding walking past my front windows in case Eric was lurking nearby. It felt ridiculous, being scared in my own home because of someone I once trusted. But there was something about the way he kept showing up, always just a little too close, a little too familiar. And worst of all, he never did anything that I could clearly call out. It was always just enough to make me uncomfortable, never enough to accuse. That's what made it so confusing. Lisa remained clueless. She would call and chat about little things, how she was thinking of starting a garden, how Eric had been working late, how their marriage was finally in a good place. Every time she spoke like that, it hit me harder. How could I be the one seeing this side of him, while she still believed he was the perfect husband? It made me feel like I was holding a secret that wasn't mine, one that could shatter her entire world if I ever let it slip. Then something unexpected happened. At a neighborhood event, one of the newer women, Kelly, approached me during a group conversation. She was friendly, outgoing, and seemed comfortable sharing her thoughts. But what she said next made my skin crawl. "Eric gives me the creeps," she whispered when the others were distracted. "He cornered me near the back of the clubhouse last week, said something weird, personal. It didn't sit right." I didn't say anything at first. I just stared at her, heart pounding. I wasn't the only one. That short exchange stayed with me. It was the first confirmation that I wasn't imagining it, that someone else had felt it too. But I still didn't know what to do. Do I talk to Lisa? Do I ask Kelly for more details? What if Eric finds out I've been talking about him? The more I thought about it, the more I felt like I was being pulled into something bigger than I realized. The tension kept building, especially when Eric's visits stopped suddenly. No calls. No texts. Nothing. At first, I felt relief. But then I started to wonder, why had he stopped? Was it over? Or was something else about to happen, something worse? For a while, things were quiet. Too quiet. Eric hadn't come by in over a week, and I should have felt better, but instead, the silence made everything feel more off. Like the eye of a storm, calm on the outside, but something dangerous circling just beyond what I could see. I kept expecting him to pop up again, to knock on the door with some new excuse, to catch me off guard. But nothing. And that made me even more nervous. Then one evening, I got a message from Lisa. It was a voice note. Her tone was rushed, a little shaken. She said Eric had been acting distant, staying out late, and locking his phone. She tried to laugh it off, but I could hear it in her voice, something wasn't right. She didn't suspect me, of course. Why would she? I was the best friend. The safe one. But hearing her say those things made my heart pound. The line between right and wrong was starting to blur. I wasn't sure if keeping quiet was protecting her anymore, or just protecting myself. The next day, Kelly stopped me outside the grocery store. She glanced around first, like she didn't want anyone overhearing. "He's been watching my place," she whispered. "I caught him sitting in his car across the street 2 nights in a row. Didn't even bother hiding it." That was it. I knew something had to be done. But I also knew that anything I said, especially without proof, could blow up in a way I wasn't ready for. I barely slept that night. My mind kept racing. What if Eric really was crossing boundaries with more than just me? What if Lisa found out and blamed me for not telling her sooner? And then, what if Eric tried to turn the tables, say I was the one coming on to him? The fear wasn't just about what he'd done anymore, it was about what he might do next. That fear became real when I got home from work and noticed my back door slightly open. I always double-check my doors. Always. My heart dropped. I walked through the house, every room, holding my breath. Nothing seemed out of place, but the air felt different. Heavy. Like someone had been there. Or maybe was still nearby. I didn't know if I was being watched. But I knew this wasn't over. Something was coming. And it was getting closer. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. I walked around the house twice, checked the locks, the windows, even the closet in the guest room. Everything seemed untouched, but that door had definitely been open when I got home. I told myself maybe I'd been careless, distracted, too tired that morning to notice. But deep down, I didn't believe that. My gut told me someone had been inside. And that someone could only be Eric. The next morning, I decided to buy a small security camera and set it up facing the back door. It made me feel a little safer, like I had at least some control. Still, I was on edge, jumping at every sound, checking over my shoulder at the store, in the parking lot, even when walking to the mailbox. I didn't want to live like that, paranoid, looking over my shoulder. But what other choice did I have? That's when everything changed. 2 nights later, I got a message. Not from Lisa. Not from Kelly. But from an unknown number. No words. Just a photo. It was a picture of me, in my kitchen, standing near the sink. The angle was strange, like it was taken from outside the window, through the blinds. My hands started shaking. I looked at the timestamp. It was from that same afternoon. I hadn't noticed anything unusual then. I was just home, making lunch. I didn't sleep that night. Every creak, every gust of wind felt like a threat. I stayed curled up on the couch, lights on, eyes fixed on the door. The next morning, I checked the security footage from the camera. Nothing. It didn't catch anything unusual. Either whoever took that photo knew how to avoid being seen, or the camera angle wasn't enough. That's when the realization hit me like a punch to the chest. Whoever did this wanted me to know they were watching. This wasn't about flirtation or uncomfortable visits anymore. This was something darker. More intentional. I called Kelly and told her about the photo. She was quiet at first, then admitted she'd been getting strange calls. No one spoke, just breathing. Sometimes in the middle of the night. Neither of us had hard proof. No faces. No voices. Just fear. Fear that was growing stronger by the day. Later that afternoon, Lisa dropped by unexpectedly. She looked tired, drained, like she hadn't slept in days. "Can we talk?" she asked, barely above a whisper. My heart pounded. I thought she knew. Maybe she'd found out something about Eric. Maybe she was about to tell me she didn't trust him either. But what she said next stopped me cold. "Have you noticed Eric acting different around you? Like, maybe saying or doing things he shouldn't?" I froze. All the walls I'd built around the truth started to crack. But I couldn't answer. Because if I said yes, everything between us would change forever. And once the truth came out, there'd be no turning back. I looked at Lisa, unsure of what to say. My mouth opened, but no words came out. For weeks, I'd been carrying this weight, trying to protect her, trying to convince myself that maybe it wasn't as bad as it felt. But now she was the one asking me. She already knew, maybe not the whole story, but enough to see something wasn't right. I finally said, barely above a whisper. "There's been things, little things." I didn't want to say anything without proof. Lisa didn't flinch. She just nodded, her eyes fixed on the floor like she was piecing something together. "I think he's been watching me, Lisa," I added. "Not just me, others too. Something's not okay." She looked up, her face pale. "I know," she said. "I found messages. On an old phone he didn't think I'd ever check again. There were photos, one of you, one of Kelly. Texts that made no sense, like he was keeping track of you both." The air in the room shifted. Everything we had both been fearing, everything we'd tried to avoid or excuse, was now out in the open. We sat in silence for a moment, both of us processing it. Then Lisa whispered, "He's not who I thought he was." That night, we agreed to go to the police together. Lisa brought the phone, and I brought the photo I'd received. Kelly gave her statement, too. It wasn't the easiest process, but the evidence was enough for them to take it seriously. They started an investigation. Officers checked the area, reviewed neighborhood footage, even examined Eric's car. That's when the twist came. During the search, the police uncovered something none of us expected. A hidden camera, planted inside a birdhouse in my backyard. It was disguised well, completely ordinary from the outside. It had been recording for weeks. The memory card inside showed hours of footage, of me. It wasn't just about creepy visits or uncomfortable vibes anymore. This was something deliberate. Stalking. Invasion of privacy. Obsession. Eric was brought in for questioning. He denied everything at first, said the photos were old, said I was exaggerating. But with the footage and messages, it didn't matter. Charges were filed, and a restraining order was placed immediately. Lisa didn't go back home that night. She stayed with a friend and started the process of filing for separation. The sense of relief came slowly. I kept looking over my shoulder for days. But the worst was over, or at least that's what I thought. Because 2 weeks later, I got another message. No name. No words. Just a photo. Of Lisa. Standing outside her new apartment. And that's when I realized, maybe it was never just about me. The photo of Lisa outside her apartment sent a cold wave through me. For a moment, all the progress we'd made, all the relief we'd felt, vanished. I immediately called her. She picked up after 2 rings, her voice calm but tired. I told her about the message, and the silence on the other end said everything. We both knew this wasn't over. Not yet. But this time, we didn't panic. We contacted the detective handling the case, and the photo was forwarded to the authorities. They began tracing the number, trying to see if it was Eric or someone else trying to play games. The truth came out a few days later, it wasn't Eric. It was someone who had found the camera equipment Eric left behind. A local man, unrelated to the original case, had picked up where Eric left off. The police arrested him. It was a wake-up call that even when one danger passes, the world can still be unpredictable. But at least this chapter was finally coming to a close. Lisa eventually moved out of town for a fresh start. She got a job offer in another state and took it, saying she needed a clean break from everything. I supported her completely. What we both went through bonded us in a way that's hard to explain. She wasn't just my friend anymore, she was family. And I knew, deep down, she'd find peace on her own terms. As for me, I took steps to feel safe again. New locks. Real security systems. Therapy. I also started journaling, writing out everything that happened helped me make sense of it, helped me heal. I even shared some of it anonymously online, and to my surprise, others reached out with similar stories. That's when I realized something powerful, I wasn't alone. So many women have gone through things like this, moments where they felt something was off but were too scared or unsure to speak up. That shared understanding became a kind of strength. Kelly stayed in the neighborhood. She and I still talk, and we've become closer than I expected. What started with whispered worries at the grocery store turned into a real friendship built on trust and truth. It's strange how fear can bring people together, but I'm grateful for the connections that came from all of this. Looking back, the warning signs were always there. The long stares, the unexpected visits, the way I doubted myself more than I doubted him. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this: always trust your gut. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Speak up. Protect your space. And never let anyone make you feel like your instincts are exaggerations. This story wasn't just about a friend's husband. It was about control, silence, and finally, finding the courage to say, "This is not okay." And while the journey was painful, it led to something stronger: clarity, freedom, and the power to never let it happen again. 30.